We're going to move on now with my friend Sean McGillivray is here. Sean's the president producer of McGillivray Freeman Films. He's my neighbor here in Laguna Beach. And he's got a story, Wealth of Nations. Sean, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can everybody see me, hear me?
Looks like you're in your helicopter.
Yeah, sorry guys. I'm in my car, but I'm parked, so you don't have to worry. And
Okay.
I'm headed up one of our, not the film that I'm going to be presenting on, but we're right now headed up to IMAX to look at a very, very fine cut of our latest film, All Around Ireland. And we have one of our partners on the call here, Elias, for that film. So I see a lot of friends and great faces that I would love to be actually with, rather than obviously on Zoom. But I'll give a little background on our company, and then we'll go into this project, which is very much it's in development rather than already in production or in post-production. A little background on our company. It's McGillivray Freeman Films. It's a family company. We're based out of Laguna Beach, California. My dad started it making surfing films back in the late 60s, early 70s. Those did well enough. He was like, hey, I could do this for a living. He then went to Hollywood, worked with the likes of Stanley Kubrick, did the opening of The Shining with cargoes up at the Crazy Hotel, and then got tapped by the Smithsonian to make their first IMAX film called To Fly. And that was back in 76 when there was just 4 IMAX theaters in existence. Now there's over 1,000. We've done 40 of these IMAX giant screen educational documentaries. Everest was our most successful, highest box office film of all time for IMAX. Living Seeing Dolphins were nominated for Academy Awards. We've done incredible work and very, very proud of it with Brand USA, with both National Parks Adventure, America's Musical Journey, and Into America's Wild, which is just really coming out this year, and we're incredibly excited about it. Mark Lapidus is our partner on that as well, so it's fun to see your face on here too. But this project that we're talking about now it's passionate for me and incredibly passionate for Dave, who will be talking about it as well, a partner on it. And it really is the idea. It's a big topic. It's the idea that we have some of the most amazing doctors, nurses, people in the industry of healthcare, so that we can get incredible healthcare if you can pay for it. But every year our healthcare system gets more expensive. It's the most expensive healthcare country-wise than anywhere in the world. And yet we have, when it comes to developed countries, we have one of the worst life expectancies. And I think leaders around the US, around the world, think that we need to change this. And what we found as far as the story is that going from this big topic to human character stories, there's 2 incredible examples, incredible people that have led change, community-based change, values-based change, which can be a beacon, a light as far as what we can do to change our healthcare system on the community level, rather than waiting for regulations. And I'll just dive into these 2 stories very quickly, and then I'll let Dave talk more about that and more about the mission of the film, which is really to inspire people to think differently about our healthcare system, and to think that they can actually play a role in making the healthcare system better for all of us. The first story is Catherine Gottlieb, and she's from Alaska, and incredible human being. She grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, in a place called Nuka, and she was a teen mom, a high school dropout. Her mom, passed away very early by addiction. She grew up in a system that, when it came to healthcare and well-being, was completely broken, and she could see it with her own eyes. And she realized that this needed to change. And through her work over the last 20 years, she's built a system, all consumer focused, patient focused, and values based focused, where it's actually now considered arguably the best healthcare system in the world, which is kind of incredible. You have countries from all over going to this little place of 60,000 people in right outside of Anchorage, and learning from this community because of what they've been able to create. And so that being able to tell that story, I think is a fascinating story. And then the second story is based in Florida, and it's the story of Harris Rosen, who a rags to riches story. He grew up poor and an immigrant, but was able to cobble together some funding in the Florida area to buy a dilapidated hotel, and through grit and determination was able to have his company go from one hotel to two hotels to now they have just over 5,000 employees in many hotels in the Florida area. But what's interesting about it, besides the rags to riches story, is that he was able, through his employee-centric and the way that he thought of how to bring healthcare to his employees, he was able to save and create something by thinking about it differently as far as how he was able to approach healthcare. He was able to save it's a staggering amount of money, just over $400 million, which he put a significant portion to this area called Tangelo Park. And he was able to basically revitalize a community that was crime-ridden, poverty-stricken, where when he first went there, it was just outside of where his hotels were. When he first went there, he wanted to change the entire educational system of this area. And when he first went there, he went to one of the kindergartners and one of their classes, and asked the class, how many of you do you think will be able to go to college? And not one of the hands were risen. And now, after 20 years, every single one of those hands, when he goes back, are risen. And he's been able to provide scholarships to this underserved population in a way so that now almost every single one of the people in this community are able to go to college with these scholarships. And it's just a testament to looking at the micro and being able to see, look what we can do when we can have an ability to put money that would typically go to something that maybe it doesn't need to go to as much if thought about right, and put towards education in a way that it really helps communities around the world. And now I'll pass it off to Dave, who he lives and breathes this. He's incredibly passionate about it, and he's doing incredible work as far as inspiring this movement, which obviously we hope will continue to inspire with this film.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. The one thing I'll add on the problem statement is, I wrote a chapter in my first book, The CEO's Guide to Restoring the American Dream, that we've gone to war for less than what the healthcare system has done to our country. You look at the stats here, this math doesn't work. I mean, you've got the working and middle classes in economic depression thanks to our healthcare system. They haven't seen wage gains in over 20 years, which is one of the definitions of a economic depression. And you have people now like, Wall Street Journal folks on this couple that they're having to hunt and fish more because they can't afford protein. So I've really devoted my life, to this, written a few books. But the best thing about this is what we say on our site. So I started a nonprofit and kind of a social movement, and we say healthcare's fixed. Join us to replicate the fixes. It's basically a true and aspirational statement. And so, I think what you all should know that out of this, really dark scenario, if you look at the root cause of a lot of the unrest, when you have an economic depression twice as long as the Great Depression and longer than 1930s Germany, you can have crazy stuff happen. There is this quiet grassroots revolution that is happening. We're feeling it, we're seeing it in our movement, and it's very transformative. And maybe because they are the most challenged, the best examples are out of BIPOC communities. And, you know, it's apropos that we have from Florida to Alaska. You can't get further away. You know, a little different situation, but the basic solution is the same. And then there's this spillover in both cases where when you stop squandering money in healthcare on waste, it's well documented, we waste $1 trillion in our healthcare system. That would be the 15th biggest economy in the world. And then you do what these organizations have done to provide career opportunities. It's amazing. I'll just go through a little bit more, extending on what Sean shared. Harris Rosen here, you know, incredible challenge there. He took this on and has really transformed this community. You look at some of the stats. He's cumulatively saved $425 million in his employer health plan that then gets reinvested. We think of this as a dividend. You know, 2/3 of college graduates graduate with debt. The Tangelo Park program, 0 debt. That community is a first quartile community in terms of income level. The typical projection for college achievement would be 9%. They're at 78%. That's higher than the highest quartile neighborhoods. High school graduations were terrible before. Some years they're 100%. Crime has gone down dramatically, and they have the best health benefits program that I've heard of any company anywhere. And I worked at Microsoft in their heyday. Spend 55% less per capita. Among the things that allows them to do, in addition to growing debt-free, they were the only major hotelier to stay open throughout COVID in Florida. Their employees and their employees' kids get their college education paid for, in addition to that neighborhood that Sean talked about. So that's, you know, in one end of the continuum, and they've been doing this for over 20 years. So it's not a flash in the pan. Catherine Gottlieb, you know, she's a MacArthur Genius Award winner. You know, big challenges there. I mean, they had some of the worst outcomes, certainly in America and really the world, in terms of things like, you know, maternal death and all kinds of addiction and the typical things we have throughout America. Yet they have people flying from Singapore to Sweden to see what they've done. I spoke with her yesterday. She's going to be she's being hired by because she recently retired from the South Central Foundation, the organization that she ran for so long. The country of New Zealand is hiring her to basically transform their system. You look at the results there. They have saved a tremendous amount of money. Better yet, the health is much better. If you look at when they got started, there was literally one Alaska Native that worked in the healthcare system there. Now over half of the 2,500 or so employees are out of the Alaska Native population. Terrific on the childhood and immunization. A couple months ago, all 65,000 of their members had access to the COVID vaccine. And this is in Alaska winter. Their 65,000 people are spread over the size of Sweden. And you're talking, they had to get sleds, boats through rough waters. They just don't make excuses. They make stuff happen. And, you know, twice, the only 2-time winner of kind of the Nobel Prize of Business, the Malcolm Baldrige Award. So just really an incredible story. And, you know, this, as Sean said, this is really a great opportunity to inspire many others, because frankly, nobody has bigger challenges in our country than they do. Yet they've done an amazing job. And so look forward to getting your feedback. Thanks again to Rick for this opportunity, and love any input, questions, you name it.
Hey, Dave, I'm going to start here real quick, and just, you know, if you could just capsulize, how do they do it? You know, how do they save all this money? What, you know, Harris Rosen, how did he pull it off?
Yeah, I mean, at the heart of it is great primary care. We've systematically destroyed primary care in this country. There's no well-functioning healthcare system in the world not built on proper primary care. And I like to remind people, healthcare actually isn't expensive. Clinicians are only getting 27 cents of every dollar ostensibly spent on healthcare. So it's a fundamental reset, and said, get the right primary care. Don't play the games or play into the games of profiteering and price gouging, and you just rebuild it brick by brick. And so when you have a good primary care system, over 90% of the issues people enter the healthcare system can be fully addressed there. And that's been the biggest part of it. They've also addressed what are broadly called the social determinants of health. 80% of health outcomes are driven by things outside of the healthcare system. Education opportunities, being able to live in a safe neighborhood, these type of things. So that's really at the heart of it.
Yeah, what gets me excited about it too is just the idea of how important preventative rather than reactive is. The idea of being able to teach and educate people around, eating healthier. The idea that technology is coming down the pipeline where it can really change and help us as far as know more about, when it comes to personalized medicine, what we can do to live healthier and better lives. And yeah, I think this is just a space as far as all of us learning how to live healthier lives that gets me really excited, especially just the challenges we have, but also the opportunities going into the future. I think we know that all of this is going to change over time, and it's just a matter of what can we do now, to knowing that it can be so hard to get regulations passed at a top-down level. So it's exciting to be a part of something that I think is incredibly important.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get into all the kind of wonky healthcare outcome data, but it's super impressive. And, they have places where there's small Alaskan villages. There's not one healthcare professional there, let alone a doctor. So, on the technology front, I mean, they have, bulletproof, essentially vending machines for medications at a medical system. I mean, of course, they don't want to facilitate abuse, but they're just problem solvers, and they don't think doctors are ever going to be in that village, so they solve for it. And it's almost like, providing healthcare for somebody on the International Space Station. They're so remote.
So Sean, you're all about creating giant screen films and IMAX films. You do a lot of other stuff too, but just to be clear, is this an IMAX film? I suppose it could be. Does it have to be? What's your thinking on format?
Yeah, no, I don't think it necessarily has to be. I mean, we're very much in the development phase of this as far as putting together the stories and then figuring out who are the potential partners that have the same values and are interested in this as far as it becoming successful. And it's very different from a tourism-based story or a variety of other brand stories. I could see it being much more of a foundation story in a way, or a specific individual who feels incredibly strong about it. But regardless, I think it's a story that needs to be told. And the minute that I heard it, I heard Dave's passion, I felt, God, it would be fantastic if we could find a way to get this told. I mean, it could be fantastic for a Netflix, fantastic for Hulu, fantastic for a broadcaster, and one which I think could really galvanize and change behavior as far as thinking through what we really should get and what we should get as a society when it comes to living healthier and better lives.
When Dave first told me the story of Harris Rosen and what happened at Tangelo Park, I was just blown away. And this was several months ago. And during this time, I've told the story again to so many people. No one's heard of Harris Rosen. No one knows this story. But he gave people a path to health, and they took it, and it completely transformed this community that sets an example for what can be done. I think so many people are frustrated with healthcare system. They don't understand it. They're waiting for government to fix it. There's fixes within our community. I just think this is such a compelling story that just is begging to be told right now.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. And anybody who watches this, obviously, we'd love to have any advice. And again, it's obviously very much in development.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on to our next story then, but please think about this, everyone, and see what we can do to help shine a light on these great stories and the the crisis that we face in this nation with healthcare. Dave Chase, thanks for being on with us today.